Memory transcription subject, Governor Tarva of the Venlo Republic. Date, Standardized Human Time, February 9, 2137. The rest of the summit was uneventful, with standard diplomatic talks setting a mundane atmosphere that reminded me of any other bureaucratic affair. My speech railed against the actions of the archives, taken against herbivores for seeking self-determination. I appealed to the connections the Venlo held for centuries, and what the Federation was supposed to stand for. Exchange program guests followed me, talking about the connections they forged with predators. Braylon and Lalo spoke about why they helped Earth, testifying to humanity's innocence. Most of the speakers, however, were human. Ambassador Williams got a proper stint on stage with a heavily prepared statement, rehashing what he'd said on AFA in full detail. Secretary General Zhao handed the floor off to undersecretaries to detail various tenets of the Charter. Extradition, interstellar police, and travel policies were proposed, followed by opinions on which substances should be controlled. Currency exchanges, labor laws, and trade were discussed by another human official. The tricky issue was that of exterminators and the environment. After the next Terran floated the idea of conservation. While the notion of preserving predators had been scrubbed from their speech, other diplomats caught on to the underlying intent. The humans deflected back to monitoring ecosystem impacts and preventing threats to sustainability. Their immediate pivot to colonization procedures and settling territorial disputes through the Coalition Forum wasn't lost on me. It was brave of Zhao to subtly throw condemnation on the Guild, before any signatories have committed to his coalition. The humans truly hate exterminators and predator disease. Terrans didn't need to raise the issue of predator disease, beyond Sarah Rosario claiming she would share research, in the interest of cooperation and transparency. I had a sneaking suspicion that humans would use the Universal Declaration of Sapient Rights to lobby for the humane treatment of mentally ill individuals. Talsk was also kicked down the road, to be decided by whoever chose to join the coalition. Overall, the predators covered all their bases, and managed not to garner too much outrage from coveted allies. The Arxer visit and the anti-exterminator guests muddied the waters, so we'd have to see whether those occurrences would have negative impacts on the vote. Boo! Ambassador Williams wrapped his arms around me from behind, and rested his chin on my shoulders. Ah, I didn't scare you a little? I wanted a little payback for all the times Venlo approached from the side, forgetting we can't see you. You know what still scares me about you, Noah? How much I love you, I murmured. The human released his grip. Perhaps we feel the same. How deep is your love? So fearsome that it rocks the soul like a gust? You've said that before, haven't you? I might have been writing a poem for you for Valentine's. That day doesn't mean a thing to you, so I guess I can relay part of it now. It's not very good anyway. Go on. I need something to give me confidence. I'm the first on the voters' roster. For all I know, I'll be the only yes vote. Okay. Ahem. Since I've met you, love is not just a word. It sings deep within, unspoken and unheard. A passion that blows all concerns to dust. So fearsome that it rocks the soul like a gust. To rest certain that I am understood and secure. I'll cherish you forever to see that will endure. Well, Tarva, I know it's corny and short, but maybe the thought. I chuckled. That was actually pretty good. I could hear the rhyme and flow before I caught the meaning. Who knew my science dork was a poet? It can be our secret. Right, I think they're about to call for the votes, so I can stop embarrassing myself. Good luck, Governor. I could sense Noah winking at me, even through his eye visor, just by the slight movement of his facial muscles. The Secretary General had been delivering a formal thanks to the attendees, and I could see the nervousness in his stance. He summoned me as the first voter, symbolic of how we were humanity's original friends, and asked for the others to form a queue. Each diplomat obliged, and I waltzed past the various aliens. Their expressions were impermeable, granting no insight to their votes. I accepted the microphone from Zhao, who offered a few gracious claps. Hello. There has never been a species which I loved as much as my own. I love Terrans for their caring nature and their innocence. Despite all that has happened, humanity hasn't lost themselves. They never wavered in their commitment to peace, even as they were forced into a grim war they wanted no part in. I'm proud to announce that the Venlo Republic will join the Sapient Coalition alongside our wonderful friends. Zhao embraced me in a hug, before I dismounted the stage with polite tail swishes to the audience. Noah gave me an encouraging nod as I returned. My stomach was a bundle of nerves. How many species would be willing to join the Predators' alliance? There was no guarantee leaders wouldn't get cold feet, or dither over the UN's Arxer ties. Ambassador Lalo was mounting the stage, which brought me relief. The yodel rushed to the front of the queue. If anyone votes yes, it should be him. This could give humanity's cause some momentum. Lalo surveyed the audience. What humanity proposed for contacting other cultures is certainly better than the Federation's heavy-handed annihilation, and the mockery that ensues. The yodel were looked down upon and silenced, but the Predators never hesitated to stand up for us as equals. They want us all to be equal. I finally have the respect I thought I'd never get. The yodel offer a resounding yes vote, and pledge everything we can offer to the ideals of the Sapient Coalition. The marsupial flicked his ears in gratitude, and Zhao returned the gesture as best as he could by dipping his head. Gojid Minister Kiri was trundling up the stage, and I recalled her desire of safety for her people's remnants. It wasn't clear if she'd see that safety in a union formed by the species the Gojids had been at war with mere months ago. Additionally, the spiky leader had been displeased about the humans defending the exact Arxer responsible for the cradle's fall. This vote could be a curt no. Kiri curled her claws around the microphone. Colonies and refugees. That is all we have left. We wouldn't have that without the Predators, the people we attacked, fighting, and dying, to save us, while we wanted to kill them. They were honorable in a way we did not deserve. You know, we never officially ceased our war with humanity. Let my yes vote, as the highest remaining member of the Gojidi Union, serve to erase all uncertainty. We are on Earth's side today. That was a surprise. I could feel the tension lifting from the Predator diplomats, as the first few votes turned in their favor. Each commitment injected a dose of positivity into the dialogue around humanity. After constant suspicion and accusations, the genuine kindness was moving a few primates to tears. They deserved to hear affirmative messages from all of us at the summit. I squeezed Noah's wrist with my tail. Zerulean Prime Minister Braylon took the stage next. We healed innocent civilians in the aftermath of Earth, where 1 billion lives were taken without cause. We've seen their homeworld, and their doctor's code has reminded us of our purpose, to do no harm. My brothers pleased to give humanity a chance were a gift to my administration. Kolia and her government votes to join the Sapient Coalition, by the Parliament's decision 62-3. Unsurprisingly, the 3 species who came to Earth's aid all were early votes to join humanity's league. A positive start, though our voting record can't stay perfect forever, can it? Thafki Representative Telekin followed the quadrupeds, a nervous look on his face. The Federation allowed us to die for the crime of having a semi-aquatic nature. I guess it's no surprise that they never offered once to help us rebuild our lost heritage and home. You know who extended that offer the first time we met face to face? The humans. The Thafki advocacy, for this alone, votes to join the Sapient Coalition. Considering how quickly the blue-gray ambassador had been to run for the bar and avoid Zhao's exposed eyes, that was a surprise. Telekin wanted to open full diplomatic relations with Predators. Thafki acceptance was an encouraging indicator to the temperature of the room. If the United Nations could deliver on the promise of a proper colony, that would be invaluable in helping the advocacy return to relevance. What more do we need to say than saving Kwa? Mazik President Cupo asked, succeeding the Thafki. The people we thought were our friends came to conquer us, while the predators we doubted and scorned saved us for nothing in return. The Presidium remembers this, and we issue unconditional acceptance to take our place within the sapient coalition. Noah snorted to himself. Long way from never trusting predators, huh? Your speech is the reason Cupo, and all these species, started on the path to accepting humans, I whispered. You're the original inspiration. The spark that lit the fire. The Ankari and Varen ambassadors took the stage together, with the former speaking for both. We are grateful the Sulians put us in touch with humanity. Many neutral parties had time to rethink the Terrans, and who they are as a race. When we learned we were former omnivores, we felt alone. The predators welcomed us, and everyone who lost their heritage. The Ankari and Varen governments stand together as deepest allies, for this unequivocal step of joining the sapient coalition. That left 8 entrants into our union, with no votes to oppose them. The humans could hardly contain their jubilance, and there were 30 species remaining to speak. Quick acceptance speeches from the Drilver and the galactically distant Paltans rounded out the numbers to 10. The United Nations had cynical expectations before this summit commenced, stating they'd be happy with a mere dozen allies. Despite all that had gone wrong, enough sentiment had swung in our favor. Tillfish Governor Burla scuttled to the podium. My thanks to the Terrans is a personal one, for saving me, my son, and helping me with a troubling concern. They could have done anything when they accepted our surrender, but they're giving us a chance at freedom. They fought for Silas, even when it seemed like they'd left, in spite of our participation in the raid. We don't deserve to join the sapient coalition, but I accept the offer with gratitude. The Harchan, the other vassal, mirrored that sentiment, before relinquishing the podium to the Fissans. Ambassador Halmina seemed pleased to have reached the stage before the Nevik successor to Tassa, and declared that she'd join since the coalition might soon be the only bargaining opportunity left. Eager to outshine their rivals, Tassa's replacement went on a lengthy tirade about how the humans needed the Neviks. Both hypercapitalist species signed on, though their speeches weren't quite as inspiring as the others. 4 converted neutrals followed, each penning the dotted line. The Sulian of Talus trotted onto the stage, suggesting they'd been smoothing the waters and guiding the last few speakers. I thought they were a certain vote to join humanity's team, after all the diplomatic legwork they'd done. However, I was curious to see what the sister species from a single world had to say about our predator friends. Noah had his 2 fingers twisted atop each other, hoping that the perfect voting streak would hold up throughout the tally. They all love you, I whispered to the astronaut. Everything you've done has mattered, to a lot of people. The Terran ambassador bobbed his head. Sometimes, I thought no one would ever see us as anything more than monsters. It felt like no matter what we did, it wasn't appreciated. That's not true. Listen to what they're saying, all the things you've done in such a short time. Here's a duo that are sure to sing your praises. Humanity answered the call. When we discovered our sister species had been slighted, the Sulian ambassador was saying. What they gave us was the scientific truth, derived from a methodology of scraping fact from bits of stone. They then risked their lives to recover the archive's info and give us concrete answers. We decide who we are, like Zhao said, and that's humanity's friends. The dual species of Gild will join the coalition. That was only the beginning of the tide of agreement. 7 more species accepted the proposal, and a palpable fog of emotion hung in the room. It would mean a lot to humanity, if every species here voted to join. My pleasure was soured as Nuala took the stage. She'd helped greenlight the bombs that struck Earth's flesh before she turned separatist. Hopefully, the crocodile had the sense to see that her species didn't belong in the humans' inner circle. Whatever Zhao espoused about an olive branch, the Terrans didn't deserve to interact with their archenemies on a daily basis. The Tillfish and Harchan should have had the decency to reject the offer too, but the crocodile are particularly egregious. Nuala tossed her sunset orange beak, shaking out her feathers. I offered to turn myself in, the first time I could speak to Zhao alone here. Unfortunately, he expressed no desire to have me charged. The humans were innocent, and we persecuted them to no end. I came here to apologize, but if they wish for the crocodile to join, I must honor their wishes. Whatever I have belongs to the sapient coalition. We're in. A few disgruntled murmurs passed through the crowd, but the representatives held their tongues, knowing that humanity would strike down discrimination on their floor. 3 yes voters followed the avian, but my focus wandered. My thoughts briefly flitted to the election, and how joining with this many species after the break from the Federation might turn voters against me. If securing the Venlil Republic's place in galactic politics was my last act, I could live with that. The race would be a challenge, but it would be arduous for Velm to pull us out of the coalition. Unity in the face of this war, and motivation given through outside kindness, is what humanity needs to make the final push to Alpha. Forget your competition at home, Tarva. Let Noah and Zhao etch this feeling into their memories. Species after species passed by Zhao, and the line dwindled without a single species rejecting a spot on our team. I thought about Elias Meyer's vision of galactic peace, and his desperate outreach to anyone who would listen. The current Secretary General had brought that dream to fruition, and made prudent moves on the war front to fend off the Federation at the same time. Despite my early doubts, Zhao had proved a worthy successor to lead Earth, and pursued harmony from his own angles. I could sense that he was proud of pulling the summit off. So we're the last ones? All of you have chosen your side? The final species in the line was Aller, the Dosur ambassador, who'd kept to the back to avoid being stepped on. Milo has been captured for months, by a fleet larger than any we've seen. The humans have given everything they can to saving us, and they're the reason anyone, including myself, escaped. Being one of the larger species makes them intimidating, but I find they have larger hearts in turn. Their compassion is their greatest strength. The Federation pushed us into their arms, so it's a given that we join this alliance. Silence permeated the auditorium, with the tally remarkably sitting at a unanimous vote to join. The chorus of heartfelt praises to humanity, the predator species that opened all of our eyes, were still ringing in our host's ears. Noah sank to his knees and wept, unable to fathom such decisive support being lent to Earth. If one species was worth sacrificing his life on Alpha, how much more did 38 friends mean to my astronaut? I wrapped a paw around his shoulder, and tugged his shaking head toward me. Oh Tarva, after everything that happened to Earth, it's really nice to know that I set some positive events in motion, Noah sniffled. Why couldn't it have always been like this? There's nothing I wouldn't have done. Mucus dropped from his bruised nose, as the emotions he'd been carrying spilled out. Secretary General Zhao had wandered back to the podium, head briefly turning toward us. Other aliens were watching us, though their attention quickly shifted back to the Chinese diplomat. The UN leader couldn't find the words to address the crowd, and he swallowed a lump in his own throat. I could see that he was choked up, though he managed to get out a few words. We have work to do, friends, the human coughed, clearing his throat. Thank you. Only now can I truly say that humanity is not alone in the universe. We're going to make this community special, because we must. Together, we'll turn the tides of this war and restore autonomy to every world. Now, before we pack this up, let's have a celebration of us. After extending their hands in a plea for friendship for months, humanity had found the eager comrades they desired. I soothed the overwhelmed Noah, and thought about how far I'd come from seeing him as a despicable monster. The Terrans deserved an outcome that was in their favor, without any caveats. For the first time since their introduction to the galaxy, events had shaken out that way. My gaze swept over the various diplomats, considering how this diverse alliance would approach the challenges that faced us all. The Predators had much to teach everyone here about civility. I had faith that we could come up with solutions to our dilemmas, and undo the crushing dogma that pervaded our societies. The future could be bright under Earth's guidance, paving the way for better days to come. Memory transcription subject, Slanek, Venlil civilian. Date, standardized human time, February 13, 2137. The Durerton homeworld was a stormy place during monsoon season. Its name was Kalqua, but I didn't care much for dissecting the linguistic intricacies of any titles. Skalga, world of death, that was a name from a species of warriors. Even that nomenclature meant little compared to the sole place that mattered, the one that I raised in my dreams, Alpha. So despite the rift between the Durerton homogeneity and the United Nations, my concern was using the gray avians to complete my mission. That was why I decided to come here. I had plenty of time to concoct a plan, as I drifted from stop to stop on the train back on Skalga. The pittance I'd received from the Venlil Human Exchange Program gave me the money I needed to reach out to unscrupulous parties. That entailed looking no further than the Nevik industry. As the losing parties of a trade war with the Fissans, they would do anything to make a quick buck. I forked over half the fee upfront in exchange for travel to Kalqua. The Neviks weren't suicidal, so their unofficial smuggling enterprise wouldn't take me to Alpha, but they still had open trade with the Durerton. It was up to me to negotiate a deal to make the trek to the Federation's home. I opened my knapsack, spotting the gun tucked next to the book. The rural exterminator's office in Seljul Falls didn't seem to recognize me, and was delighted when I'd floated the idea of taking out dogs. Those Venlil made it clear they wouldn't mind if a human predator got on the wrong end of a bullet. It was all I could do not to mow each of them down then and there. My impatience to get to business was growing now too, with the itch in my claws craving the pull of the trigger. The damn Nevik has been in a holding pattern above world for hours. Something about it being too stormy to land safely in the Durerton capital, Liluit. Why can't we descend now? I barked. I was also a pilot. I know we can fly through choppy conditions. The Nevik flicked his ears. It's against local regulations. Too many crashes on Durerton soil, especially with smaller spacecraft. They'll find me at the docking bay if I go now, so no can do. I'll cover the fine, with a little extra for you. How much to go right now? 1,000 credits. I gagged at the figure, but fished out my holopad regardless. Missed messages showed on the old chat app I'd used during the exchange program, but I navigated to my bank account instead. I had wanted to leave something to Jency and Marcel to improve their welfare, but what was important was terminating Nikonas's life as soon as possible. The Nevik looked satisfied when I transferred the requested amount, and punched in the commands on the piloting interface. My ears pinned back against my head, with the actualization of my plans unfolding. As a recognizable figure across the galaxy, I wasn't expecting the Durerton to give a human-friendly Venlil a hero's welcome. They thought our sweet predators were as good as dirt, but at least they weren't actively engaged in war with them. Anyone who threatened Earth's safety or the average Terran's welfare needed to be put down. In the past, people like me would have never allowed someone to terrorize our herd. To think what they'd done to Skalga was worse than the bioweapon the Kolshians gassed Marcel with. I wonder what their species would look like with specially crafted afflictions. Hey, what is wrong with you, Slanek? We're here, and they've locked the docking clamps until I pay the fines. You were in such a hurry, and now you've got 1,000 parsec stare at the runway. Go! Get off of my ship, the Nevik barked. I jolted back to alertness, slinging my knapsack over my shoulders. Thanks for the ride. Hustling out onto the runway, rain assaulted me from above and trickled into my ears. I spotted Durerton soldiers marching toward the shuttle with irate wing flaps. I raised my paws to show my intent to surrender to the security, and halted my forward momentum to ensure I wasn't perceived as a threat to the herd's safety. The avians looked alarmed to discern that a Venlil had slipped through their borders via a Nevik charter. Several guards immediately drew their weapons. Forcing myself to remain calm, I knelt onto the pavement without waiting for instruction. 2 guards pushed me onto my stomach, planting their webbed feet against my neck. The Durden chained my arms behind my back, and hauled me to my paws. They called in my arrest, naming me as the famous human pet, Slanik. I gritted my teeth at that moniker. Smoothing out my fur through a concerted effort, I issued a request to speak with someone high-ranking in the government. The avian's suspicion intensified after I verbalized that desire, though they passed it along the correct channels. You're completely at their mercy, so might as well play nice. They have no requisite not to hear your plea, though I don't know what happens if they say no. It took several minutes sitting in the back of a stationary police car, but clearance came through for me to be taken to Ambassador Koji's office. The Durden representative to Earth was fresh back from the summit, having slammed the door on humanity's diplomatic offers once and for all. I released a sigh of relief as the car began moving, and I offered as little as possible to guards prompting me for my reasons. What I had to say was for official ears only. Nobody could know my plans to annihilate Nikonas. Impatience caused me to fidget, and the bland colors of the structures didn't give me much to look at. It felt like hours later when we finally arrived, passing under a billboard that said, "Sapient Predator?" An oxymoron. I wished they hadn't put the Windows Visual Translator on to convert text to Venlil tongue. A Durden guard hauled me out of the car, granting me an unhindered look at the embassy. The construction was built to withstand strong winds, with metal plates over the windows, and entrance hatches on each floor for any natives that chose to fly inside. I was forced to take the long way around, trundling through the lobby to a rusted elevator that clearly hadn't seen much use. Is this even safe to ride in? It doesn't look like it's been well kept, I grumbled. The security officer huffed, smashing the third button with his wing. Oh, so you talk now, just to question us? You are an intruder here, and you will do what we say. I doubt it will be worth our time to hear you out at all. I can't fathom why you came to Calqua, with who you are. I swished my tail with annoyance, but said nothing as the elevator ratcheted up to the 3rd floor. There were periodic creaks and scraping noises as it ascended, along with a painfully slow pause that made me think we were stuck for a second. The door slid open, revealing an array of private offices. Most were shut, though I could see lights on under the frames. I was brought to the far end of the hall, and deposited into Koji's sprawling office, still chained. The Durden ambassador had pictures of Noah's face on the wall with his binocular eyes carved out. If I wasn't desperate to get to Alpha, I would have never beseeched her aid. I thought my guard had misidentified you, but no, it's really Slanik, friend of that captured human. Is this some deranged plea by Tarva to get me to return, and apologize for her audacious stunt at the summit? If I didn't know better, I'd think that Predator Noah was her lover, Koji sneered. I issued a nervous laugh. That's ridiculous. Ambassador Noah just interacts with her a lot, and he's the one who convinced her to trust humans. I know people say Tarva is too attached to humans, but don't be offensive. I'll be whatever I want. You're in my office, on Calqua, and we don't worry about hurting Predator's feelings here. Well, I'm not here on behalf of my government or humanity. I'm here because of what the Kolshians did to Skalga. It's personal. They ruined my life, they turned me into this. I know you're angry about what they did to you, so we can help each other. I'm gonna kill Nikonas if it's the last thing I do. The Durden stared at me in disbelief, before she burst out laughing. I know the weakest species in the galaxy is made up, but you must be out of your mind. You're still crippled and I can't imagine how that would ever work. Besides, it's something a predator disease patient would say. Again, I reiterate, the fact that you came here is beyond deranged. Why us? Because you're the only one with motives to make them pay who could actually get to Alpha. I thought about every detail. I need this to work, so just trust me. You could schedule a meeting under the ruse of the Kolshians knowing the Durden walked out of humanity's summit. Tell them you want to meet for reconciliation. Nikonus would love to weaken Earth and siphon off their allies, so he'll bite. That's actually halfway decent, Slanek. I don't see why we need you. I perked my ears up. You'll never get inside the hall with a weapon, security will catch you and you'll be blown. If you think you can attack Nikonus unarmed, you'll just get gunned down by his guards who follow him everywhere, and are armed. It keeps you from making yourself a target. Better yet, even if I fail, you have the cover of me being a stowaway from the summit or something. Some predators hit. Koji craned her neck in thought, and her eyes lit up with something resembling schadenfreude. I knew that I had the Duerden then and there, I'd read them right, gauging that they wanted to obliterate the Kolshians after the archive's info. My guess was based on the fact that they were willing to communicate with humanity, who it was no secret they hated, after the homogeneity learned about being turned into mindless drones. The ambassador tossed her beak. How do you think you can get to Alpha, let alone with a weapon? I read a human myth about a so-called Trojan horse, I replied. Was this plot a human idea? No. They stripped me off my military rank because of what I did at Milo. I just drew inspiration from the predator trickery. They're best at it, you know. Oh, I know. I'm not surprised a Venlil saw that truth eventually. What is this Trojan horse? My version of it? Make a gift statue for the Kolshians, line it with materials that will disrupt sensor readings, and stick me in the base. My guess is that they'll put it in the garden outside, you bring Nikonus to see it, wherever it is, and I'll pop out. We can't put a slit for me to shoot from the inside without risking me being sighted. I just need an escape lever, and a motion sensor for when you direct him in front of my exit. I see. You want a weapon from us, I imagine? I already had a gun in my bag, which I'm sure your guards found, so it can be stashed in the statue with me. Don't worry, I've gunned down Kolshians before, you don't want to know, so you don't need to worry about me getting cold feet. I can handle myself. What's your escape plan? I don't have one. I tugged at the chains around my paws with discomfort. My plan is to run off, and meet you back at the ship. You can make a lot of noise and cause a distraction, if you want to help. The less details you know about that specific part, the better, I don't want to tip off the Kolshians chasing me. That makes sense. Koji seemed to buy my lie, and she shuffled the papers on her desk. I'll bring it up to the people who can actually make this decision. If they say yes, which I suspect they will, we'll start work on this statue. What should the likeness be? Playing to narcissism always works. Nikonus boasts about all the things he did to other prey species, so it's clear his ego wants people to know. It could be a statue of him. Killed by an idol to himself, it's poetic. They hated Duerden for having opinions, and speaking our minds. They don't want us to speak, fine, we'll do things the other way. For what it's worth, I appreciate you bringing us this opportunity, and I hope you succeed. I imagine the collective feels the same. Koji summoned the guard that had brought me in, and ordered him to bring me to a visitor's room on the first floor. As I looked over my shoulder, her gray silhouette swooped out of the hatch in her office, and the bird took flight. My mind harkened back to when the wingless humans had jumped out of a spacecraft, with me sedated in tow, and dropped to the cradle's surface. Loss clawed at my heart, as I pictured Marcel giving Nulia pain meds for her shattered leg. The Gojid child he wound up considering his own, who played with Uncle Slanek and Mazel often. What I wouldn't give to be innocent like that again. Before Earth was hit, we were so happy, and unaware of the Federation's unholy meddling. I had no clue what I really was. Tears welled in my eyes, the finality of this assassination attempt was certain. When Koji fulfilled my request to travel to Alpha, and after observing her reaction, I was certain her people would heed the call, there was no turning back from deep within the Federation's heart. It was too late to select any route other than vengeance for me, and I struggled with what I knew came next. After deposing my creator, this was part of the tale where my own life of misery should come to a close. With how I'd changed, that might be for the greater good, but I was chilled by the prospect of non-existence. My tale didn't have to be an exact replica of ancient Earth literature, it wouldn't be. However, my non-existent escape plan meant the end was near for me. I wished I'd said a proper goodbye to Marcel. The red-haired human would be upset by what I was about to do. He was under the impression that I was getting help, and we'd never had the opportunity to patch up our friendship, though that hadn't seemed possible, ever. The Venlil he'd befriended was already dead. Whether predator disease was a lie or not, I felt like it was a fair diagnosis for me now. Any explanation I could have afforded Marcel would have only made him more disappointed in my warped mind. This would be the last time I disappointed my human. However, given my odd unwillingness to die, I would hope to find another way to disappear than expiry. My schemes had been crafty enough up to this point, so perhaps I could think on my feet in the moment. One thing was for sure, I was no longer going to freeze or let fear triumph during calamity. If this was my last adventure, I planned to go out in what humans called a blaze of glory. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get all the future notifications of new episodes, it really helps out the channel. And I will see you on the next one. Cheers.